Hello everyone, it's Liam, the Deaf to Metalhead, and today is a 2023 collection update. All of these albums have been released this year at some point throughout the year. Big stack of mostly death metal. There's some black metal in there, there's some drony doom stuff in there, there's some insane blast beat. It's got everything. I'm going to turn that down a little bit though because it's quite loud. So yeah, I won't fuck about, we'll get straight into it because there's a lot to get through. So this one is a UK band based in Scotland, I think also somewhere in in England as well. One of the chaps resides, and this is the latest from Ageless Summoning. It's just put out through Dark Descent Records, and is titled "Corrupting the Entempled Plane." Now, instantly you might already know that is Paolo Gradi artwork, and anything that he puts his hand to is normally something I want in my collection. Fucking fantastic artist, and normally with his artwork you kind of get a picture of what the band's going to be about, and these guys are very, very good at doing death metal, very much in the vein of Morbid Angel, Domination era, to a point, Gateway's Annihilation. They have that kind of vibe to them, but it's very riffy, very chuggy, brutally heavy, and there's the back of it there. And it's just a really cool band. They had a demo out for ages, and it was the only thing you could get from them, and I think that's it anyway. I don't know actually. There's an inner there with just lyrics and some thank yous on black wax, and it's just a brutally heavy album, really riffy, and I've enjoyed this a lot. It's been just something you can easily get into if you like your death metal. You're already a fan of this. It's that easy to get into, just straight in, no fucking about. So yeah, Ageless Summoning, really, really strong album that is. Now this one is one that was sent to me to try out from a mate of mine here in Norwich, and it surprised me because it's not an easy listen, but it is a good listen. But he did tell me very specifically, he even wrote a letter there, you have to be patient with this release. This is the latest from Khanate, and that's called To Be Cruel. So this is a New York based band, formed in 2000, and this is their fourth full-length album, and this is a drony kind of doom where it's very raw, it's very harsh. It's not like your well-produced studio albums where it's all lush, guitar sound massive, all that kind of thing. It's very raw, has that very much been recorded in the room vibe, and it's brutally aggressive but in a very heavy, slow way. It's a brutal kind of drags you down kind of vibe to it, if that makes any sense. There's long build-ups into the tracks. There's only 3 tracks on here. It's about an hour long. It's not for the faint-hearted, and if you don't like doom music, or you think doom is too long with just 6-minute songs, you ain't going to get into this at all. But I would say strongly give it a go. I mean, the guys in the band are quite strong. It features Stephen O'Malley, or Malley, who is in Sono, if you know that band, and also one of the co-founders of Southern Lord Records, if you know that label. So there's some good pedigree in there as well. So not just a band, you know, they have some know-how about them. And like I said, this is their 4th album. Yeah, and this was really interesting. It's like an album you're not going to predict. You'll never know what's going on. So thank you, Steve, for sending me that. It's one I haven't been able to spin in the car because I haven't been anywhere long enough yet to really appreciate it. I've had it on in here a few times. But yeah, really, really cool album. And I'm always picking up little things every time I'm listening to it. So yeah, Khanate. Now, this band are absolutely massive now, and I remember talking to Tom when they first started out in a way. They just got signed, and this is very much a COVID band that's turned into a massive UK staple death metal band, and that is the latest from Celestial Sanctuary. What's this one called? Insatiable Thirst for Torment. This was come out through Church Road Records, which is another UK label. And yeah, like I was saying at the start, Tom has made this band into a massive powerhouse now. These guys go on every single bill you can think of. They are popular everywhere. Everybody likes them. I mean, Dan in Consecration, he went to see Obituary in Norwich the other day, and he said these guys were the best band of the night over Obituary because these guys had energy, they put it all on the line, and you know, they go for the jugular. And yeah, he was impressed, and I must admit this, I at first wasn't sure if it was a step up from the last one, but I do think it is. After about 5 listens now, I can safely say I think it is a step up. I loved the first one. There's certain songs on there, certain riffs that have stuck with me since it came out, and this one isn't more of a riff fest, it's more of a fucking it will pummel you to death fest. It's just every song is angry, heavy. The fucking guitars sound mint. They're really riffy. You got some solos in now, and it's more of a band now, and you can really hear it because obviously Tom writes, I imagine, most of the music, but the other guys in there you can hear influences because you've got other guys like you've got Jay, who was in Road Mutant with Tom, he's on bass. You've got James from Infernal Sea, who's a black metal drummer traditionally, but on here he's really honed his skills. He sounds even better than the first album. And the drums on this sound fucking awesome, like the blasts, double kick. And then you've got a chap called, I think, Matt, who I've gigged with in the past when he was in a band called Obscene Entity, and that band was really weird, but also technical. And the solos he's put, which I assume are his solos on here, really add to the weird, eerie atmosphere. So it's gone from like a kind of, like I used to think, like a hardcore crossover death metal band, and it's now become just this really angry, chasmic, like brutal force of nature. It's really, really cool, and the cover art is fucking amazing, and I really like that cover. And they're doing me proud because these guys are from the east of England, so it's my part of the world, so it's quite nice to have a death metal band from these parts. Vinyl looks like that. That's also a point. It's also got artwork by a chap called Wes, who's based in Norwich. That's his artwork there in the inlays, or the inner rings, I don't know what you call them. So yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic album. My favourite song at the moment is probably Biomineralization, Cell Death, something like that. But that's just a fucking gouger. I mean, the riffs on that are silly. It has also very much Sepultura Arise vibes to it as well for some reason. There's the inlay there, and there's Wes's artwork. I was right, it is on here as well. So if you've got the latest Coffin Mulch, you might recognise that artwork. Same dude. So yeah, fucking fantastic album. I have zero faults with it. I wanted to think the first one was better just because I love it so much, but this one has overtaken it. So yeah, New Celestial Sanctuary, get on that shit. Right, this one is I don't think this has actually come out officially yet. I don't know. I got given this in advance, so I'm very happy about that. This is the latest from Suffer Yourself, and this is Axis of Tortures, which has come out through Aesthetic Death Records here in the UK. Now, these guys were originally a one-man project out of the Ukraine, and has since moved to Sweden, and it's got the Swedish members in there, as well as the chap from Ukraine. And I think this is their fourth full-length or third full-length. Formed in 2011, and this is their fourth full-length, yeah. And this is solid doom death, really heavy, really riffy, has that kind of Solivus vibe, if you know that band from Finland. Very much in that kind of ballpark where it's chuggy, heavy, not quite fast, and it's just really well put together, really heavy. The production on it is brilliant, and this band has got a lot stronger. I have all their albums bar one. I think it's the second one I don't have. And it's just a really tight band, and every release has got better and better. So if you've never checked out Suffer Yourself, I strongly recommend it. I'll leave links to everything I'm talking about today, like I always do. But that was the tits. I was really happy with that. So yeah, Suffer Yourself, a brutal listen. Really like that one. Now this one is just mental. Now I have to thank my buddy Rich out of Malediction for getting me this one. So this is the latest from Ascended Dead, called what's it called? Evenfall of the Apocalypse, something like that. It's all down there. This came out through $20 Spin. This is an American band based out of California, and this is their second full length. Shell looks like that. And now this is just a sheer blast fest. Now this will smoke your tits off. It's fucking insane how blasty this album is. Like, every song is 100 miles an hour. There's no let up whatsoever. There's no mid-pace riff. There's no chugging bit where they kind of have a breather. It's just intense from start to finish. It's insane how brutal this is. And I believe the drummer in this band now is the live drummer for Morbid Angel. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly sure he is in Morbid Angel, because he's got a guy called I don't know, I didn't write his name down, but he's been in Rent, if you know that band, brilliant band. Void Ceremony, Skeletal Remains, Incantation, and then even the bass player, who's also a drummer in this band, he's in bands like Ritual Necromancy, Lord Gore, all really, really cool bands. And I think the vocalist was also in Void Ceremony as well. So you can get an idea, they're a very strong band, musicianship wise, and this is just fucking mental. Like, in a good way though, but you have to be in the mood for this kind of music, because it is not something you can kind of take in, and it's like it lets you breathe. It is all in one, it's really intense. You have to be ready for, if you'd say you're running or something like that, it's a perfect soundtrack. It's fucking insane. It's so fast. So yeah, I'm actually really impressed with it because I knew they were kind of like that. I haven't really listened to the first one much, but upon hearing this, I have changed my opinion on them slightly, and they are. You can pick out certain riffs because some people have said that it's hard to know where the songs are because it is so intense, but I can pick out certain tracks after about 2 or 3 listens and certain riffs. But yeah, it is a blast fest. So yeah, Send It Dead. Right. Now this is a really cool one. Now this is a band from the 90s that have since reformed. This is only their second full length since the 90s, and that is the band Sorrow, with the latest release called Death of Sorrow for Extreme Music, which is a Spanish label, I believe. But these guys were a New York band that formed in '91. They were known as Apparition in the late '80s, and then they changed their name. Put out a really good album, I think in '92. And then they went on hiatus, and now they've since come back. I believe this was actually written in the 90s as well, so it has very much that 90s Death Doom sound to it, even though it's got a modern recording on it. You wouldn't really know that. They do sound pretty much exactly the same as their debut, which is really cool. Even the artwork is very much a homage to it as well. So if you know the original album, you look at this, you can see the similarities are there. And yeah, it's just a really cool 90s doomy death band, you know, that you forget existed. There was hundreds of them. CD, it's a bit shiny, but it's got some really cool artwork on there. And yeah, it's just solid from start to finish. I really enjoyed this. The last track is just a weird instrumental with the funeral march with some weird stuff thrown in, so you could kind of ignore that track, which is, what's that, track 8. So you've got 7 solid music tracks. And yeah, I've listened to this a ton. It's very, very cool, and I love this band. So yeah, Sorrow, go check that one out. Now, this is the only black metal album of the collection update, and it's a band that I absolutely adore, and one of my favourite black metal bands, and that is the latest from Afsky, with that, I don't know how you pronounce it. This is another one out through Vendetta Records. I think all his albums have come out through this label, which is a German label, and this is very atmospheric, very miserable black metal with shitloads of wicked melodies. It's got all the feels. It's such a good... I mean, this is a single man as well. Does all this whole project, one-man project, does everything: vocals, drums, guitars, acoustic guitars, bass, the works. And I think it even looks like him slightly. I don't know his name. What's his name? Ole Pedersen, Luke, I think his name is. And that it does look like that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the second album was when I first ever heard these guys, and it completely captured my imagination, and I went through the whole ride. And then the album before that I got, and now when he announced this one for 2023, I was so happy because it's such good music he writes. I love Death Doom, and I love emotion in music, and I love melodies that make you feel miserable, and this guy does all of that. With that kind of harsh black metal realm as well, and then you've got these really lush acoustic passages that break it up. And it's just an all-round musically fantastic album. Really, really good album. It's on Black Wax. And as all Afsky releases, for some reason they come with a little booklet for the lyrics. But because it's all in Danish, I've got no idea what they say. So you've got stuff like this here, that little booklet. Looks like that. No artwork or nothing like that. Just literally just verses and stuff like that for each song. So yeah. But either way, I mean, this is just an amazing band, and if you've not checked this album out, but you like your kind of miserable but yet thought-provoking and emotional music, you'll really, really like this album. It's so good. I mean, the second one is still my favourite, but that's because it's the first one I heard by these guys. But this is a worthy contender to sit alongside it. So yeah, latest Afsky, go get on that. Now, this is another one I have to thank Rich from Malediction for grabbing for me. And this is the latest from, I hope I pronounced this right, Deteriorot. This is a US death metal band that came out in the very early 90s. One of the OGs, you could say. And this is called The Rebirth, another one out through Extreme Music. Now, I discovered this band by Facebook, and the singer added me on Facebook. Paul is his name. And I thought I recognised the band he was talking about, and then I checked him out further, and I was like, I fucking love this band, they sound amazing. Why have I never heard of them before? And then, yeah, I went on a binge, and I've got a cassette of theirs up there now, and just a few more albums to find. But like I said, these guys have been around since 1990 out of New Jersey. Paul Zavaleta is the only OG member left. He's got a whole new band around him now. And this is only their third full-length album. And I think the last one was 2010, so there's been a bit of a gap. But this is solid, very old school sounding death metal. It's not modern at all. It's very mid-paced. There's a lot of chugging going on, which I love. It's got pinch harmonics, brilliant solos, and his vocals are really weird because they're not what you'd think death metal vocalists go for these days. They try and go for that ultra boomy, aggressive, chasmic kind of sound, whereas Paul does a more of a dead person trying to do death metal, if that makes sense, which we kind of think would it sound like a very old school. I don't want to compare him to Chris Barnes because he doesn't do any of that stuff, but he does go into the Chris Barnes range where it's like very gravelly, very evil and sinister, which I really like because it's got that rawness. It's got that dirty, horrible death metal sound to it, and I can see why he does it because it does really work. But I could not tell you a word he's saying though. But the best track on here for me, there's a lot of them, but Political Edification I really like, but also Unholy Rebirth, because it's got a riff on that will stick in your head for days. Now I don't know if that's a rewritten track or not, because I have that on a tape, so I don't know how old that one is, but go and listen. I'll leave that link below for that track. But Unholy Rebirth, it's got a riff at the start that'll be in your head for days. It's a brilliant song. So yeah, Deteriorot, really fucking good album. I've already broke the CD tray, so I have this on the card, loads for work. About 35-40 minutes long, so it's not a long listen, and it's easy to digest. So yeah, proper nasty, horrible sounding old school death metal. Go give that a spin. And the last two are both Cavernous Records releases, a label dear to my heart here in the UK. First one is a split between two filthy horrible death metal bands who I believe one is American and one is from the UK. I didn't write it down, did I? I don't know. But anyway, we'll see. This is called Horror Worshipping Death, and there's a split between here we got Bloodspore, Blood Rage and Mortuary Ghoul. Now Blood Rage, I do know, they are a mix of three death metal nerds here in the UK. You've got Tom Hughes, who's in a bazillion projects, also runs Death Stare Records out of Wales. He's in everything, he's a very talented dude, but then annoyingly he's incorporated two other really talented dudes. You've got Joe Bradley out of Trenchfoot, who's also in is it Crypsis, one of those bands he was in. He's a fucking amazing guitar player. And then you've also got Ryan Wills, who's an even nastier kind of death metal guy. He does so many death metal projects and he just seems to write riffs out of nowhere and can learn a song within hours. It's really annoying how good he is. But he also, I think Seven Doors is his latest work, and that's fucking amazing as well. And this is no different, it's just solid, absolutely solid. Lots of sound bites, horror vibes. Mortuary Ghoul's the same. They carry on with the whole kind of horror death metal thing from the 80s, slasher flicks, you know, that kind of vibe. So you know what you're kind of getting. It's very raw, very aggressive. And yeah, I mean, they do a By the Light, which is an obituary cover right at the end on the Blood Rage side. And annoyingly, these guys were going to play live in January next year, but they're not now, sadly, so I'm a bit upset about that. So yeah, go give that a spin. That is fucking awesome. And lastly, this is a UK band, but I've got no idea any details on it because there isn't any. It's a new band anyway. This is called Angelivore Flesh Feast, which is another Cavernous Records new release. This only came out, I think, last week. And this I thought was an Italian death metal band because it sounds Italian to me. I don't know why I think that. It's got that kind of Italian vibe to it with death metal bands, and they have a certain sound to me. And this guy here does that. It is a one-man project called DM Devastator, but it has a lot of guests on it. And if you watch the music videos, they are a whole band in the video by memory. And it is just savage, brutal death metal. Very modern sound, very chunky. Got lots of very fast solos on it. But what made me laugh, in a good way, was the song Death Legacy, which is a song completely written in band names. So the lyrics are all band names. There's a music video for that. And what it reminds me of is my mate Dan, who's the vocalist in Consecration, my band. whenever we do an interview and there's a question saying what influenced you as a band or as a person, he will put a fucking ton of bands on the list, and to the point where we have to say to him, look, take some off because it looks ridiculous. Because I'll put like 3 or 4, probably less than that. He'll put like 20, and it's like, people don't need to know that. But that song reminded me of him, because if you watch the video and the lyrics, you'll get it. It's just constant, but it works. It's a really good song actually. But the best song on here for me is the last one, Pestilence and Purity. That was really heavy, really thick, brutal, and yeah, really easy album to get into. About 35 minutes again, not a long album. So yeah, Angelivore, something like that. Flesh Feast, really cool album. So yeah, thank you for watching if you stuck to the end. Go check out all those new albums. I'll leave links below to everything else. If you did like the video, and you may not know who the hell I am, go consider subscribing to the channel and you can watch all the other content I churn out with other bands or stuff like that. In the meantime, please take care, and I'll speak to you guys in the comment section. Cheers.